Welcome back to part 4 of the Mist Eaters on Unfair. We have the final corporate island ahead of us, and all decision making is null and void. We have a perfect score currently of 30,000, and mechs are on screen. We've got Archimedes in the thruster mech with fracturing shells. Isaac Jones in the smog mech with targeted strike and conservative. And our starting pilot, Penny, with control shot in the control mech, and nanofilter mending has been moved over to there. So we've got lots of good upgrades, and our final island promises such delights as diggers, starfish, moths, the tumblebug leader is the boss, and the arachnid scion. We are hoping for a perfect run. That is a score of 40k if we can make no mistakes and do no damage to the grid. And we have our unavoidable mission, which is to kill 7 enemies and protect the coal plant. Normally I would be a little bit worried about killing 7 enemies, but this is the type of map seed where no new enemies will spawn. So I just have to manage everything that we can see currently frozen in the ice. 3 of these enemies are the 1 HP robots, so, we should be in decent shape. And thanks to the damage upgrade on the smoldering shells, 4 HP enemies can be one-shot. We do 3 damage, and then fire will finish them off. So we're, as long as we're killing both things that emerge from the ice, we should be on par. Now, this will be slightly problematic because the bouncer leader that has spawned on this map is armored, meaning that we can't just one-shot it with the smoldering shells, unfortunately. With that said, we can at least do significant damage to it, and if we can do 1 more damage, then it will be destroyed. And then the control mech can deal with that starfish for now. We can shove it in some smoke, and we won't have to worry about it. And with Isaac on our squad, we have 2 temporal resets available if we make mistakes. But, we're not in the mistake-making business anymore. This is our 4th island with the Mist Eaters. The snowball should be in full effect here. We get the 2 more robots emerging, and we should have sufficient capabilities now to finish off all currently active enemies. The control mech, in theory, can move one of these robots into a tile that is on fire. This is fine. I could have killed both robots, but that's just hindsight being 2020. We'll have 3 active enemies on the final turn. As long as we get 2 more kills, we will be in good shape. And that will be mission accomplished. Pretty painless. Our starting pilot got invulnerable for their final level up, which is, fine. We take that. Skilled is really what we're here for. We're not hurting for a new pilot. For the next mission available to us, we have the Ice Storm modifier, which is usually very player-sided. And we just have to destroy a couple of egg sacs. 9 tiles will be frozen every turn. This aids in both defending the grid and arresting the enemies. The one little wrinkle is we don't want the eggs to be frozen, if at all possible. We're going to have to make sure to destroy them before that happens. And we also get a time pod. I believe the first of 2 for our final corporate island. We have 2 threats to the grid, those being the starfish. Everything else is either irrelevant or will be frozen by the ice storm. We can do a little bit of 2-for-1 action with fracturing shells, so that we can start killing enemies with impunity and we don't have to worry about them spawning spiderlings. And then, really, it's just up to the control mech to, ideally, just send that starfish into the refrigerator. And we'll be in fine condition here. Archimedes sure is great in a flying mech. He's just great in general. He's definitely in contention for one of the strongest pilots in the original game. Even if his ability takes a power core, it is extremely worth it. If you think that every turn you typically have 3 moves and 3 actions available to you between your 3 mechs, Archimedes means that you have 3 actions and 4 moves available to you. It's just really, really powerful. And has less kind of weird limitations than Silica. Not to say Silica isn't powerful, but it definitely takes more work and setup. So the map is quickly becoming choked with frozen garbage. And we are in so little risk of any sort of failure at this point that I'm barely paying attention to what's going on. Which is a good position to be in. Really, the main threat is Frozen Vec blocking the my ground-based unit's maneuverability, but really, the Smog Mech doesn't need to access that much of the map. And the newly emerging enemies are going to be largely constrained to the southwestern part of the board. So another easy mission. It is increasingly looking like we are going to be succeeding at the fabled 40K. And if there was any question as to who was the strongest squad in the game, even if I like the bomber mechs more, this run is definitely evidence suggesting that the Mist Eaters are the true GOAT. But perhaps I just had a little bit worse luck when I was doing my bomber mech run. There's a little bit of RNG involved. We get the Frost Beam, which is kind of silly. Science class weapon. Very powerful. The question is, do I even need it? I think what I wind up doing is I do have a pilot with conservative, that being Isaac. So I think I'm going to stick Isaac in the control mech. Then we can put the Ice Beam on the control mech, and then we'll just shelve Precision Strike. We didn't even really wind up using it that much anyway. And nano filter mending is, just key to our base functionality here. I perhaps briefly consider putting it on the thruster mech, maybe shelving the reverse thrusters, but I kind of like our loadout. And, you know, control mech, the control shot is still so powerful that I'm probably still going to be using, I'm going to be using that more than the ice beam. So we go to the next mission. I select the Protect the Cannon Bot mission. This is where we have to destroy the hacking facility, and then once we do so, the robot will become a friendly unit that we can control, and we just have to make sure that it survives the fight. The fact that the hacking facility is this close to the enemy side of the board is advantageous to us. And then we also get our second time pod. We gotta deal with the digger, the starfish leader, and then a moth and a starfish, with the ever-irritating spider scion hanging around. We've got to do something about the digger and the moth, but the rest of the problems... Oh, I suppose we have to do something about the robot as well. It will shoot the grid if we get out of the way of its attack. I think the move here is to use the smog mech to smoke the digger and the moth, getting a 2-for-1 and canceling out its attacks. And then really it's a matter of moving the robot. Oh, I see. So the robot will get hit by the starfish and will lose its shield. But that's okay, because between the robot's attack and the starfish's attack, the hacking facility would be destroyed. I'm willing to lose the shield. I could have set it up so that the spider scion gets killed as well. And I kind of wind up not putting Archimedes necessarily to optimal use. We can get some damage on the starfish leader. So there is half of the mission accomplished. We now have an extra little buddy. The cannon bot is now on our side. We have the moth and the starfish alpha to take care of. They are the priority. We're going to see an interesting little wrinkle here, which is that the spider, the arachnid scion, is going to burn to death, as will the starfish. However, things take fire damage in initiative order. So the starfish dies before the scion, so it does spawn a spiderling egg. Fortunately, it spawns it inside flames, which I believe means that the spiderling will be lit on fire and is thus of no concern to us. But it's still an interesting little wrinkle. Now we have to do something about the starfish leader and deal with a wave of incoming spawns. And then we can get the starfish leader down to the magic number of 4 HP. That puts it within killing range of the smoldering shells. And the good news is that enemies burning to death will be providing a little bit of XP, slowly but surely, to Isaac, our last pilot that even can use experience. So the final turn will be a 2v4 our favor. And the nice and relaxed march towards that 40k continues. And if we discount the frozen enemies, we'll have a total board wipe here. Let's see what's inside our final time pod for the run. It's the heat converter. I still don't think I have showcased the heat converter. It's a relatively straightforward limited use weapon. But again, it's inferior ultimately to the ice beam or the frost beam. So we're not going to be seeing it again. Hopefully in the future we will have the chance to show you that it's a useful little thing to have. We're just going to be using these power cores to finish off the baseline upgrades of our mechs. I think I finally pulled the trigger on the damage upgrade for fracturing shells. You know, Archie does not need 7 HP, that's a little excessive. So we will see how a 3 damage fracturing shell serves us, fully upgraded. Turns out it's actually pretty handy. You just have to kind of use a little bit of feng shui, kind of foreseeing the attacks. So we are on our final selection before the boss fight. I like to go for Defend the Robot Factories. This mission can be a little chaotic, but I was going for maximum reputation. And, you know, I was riding high on that late game hubris. Very confident that we were, you know, so close to that 40k. I could taste it. Got a pair of starfish, a digger, a scorpion, and the arachnid scion. And the robot factories will be spawning extra HP, 1 HP robot little things. Roboids. The smog mech is a good choice to solve the scorpion and starfish problems on the western side of the board. And we really only have to worry about the digger. I'm experimenting with my positioning, seeing what I can do to maybe engineer the demise of the digger. But then that would also leave a spiderling behind, which I wasn't too thrilled about. So instead, I believe I opt to delete the arachnid scion, and then we will just freeze the digger. And that will be, hopefully, a problem we don't have to think about anymore. We can now start wrangling things on the western side of the board with the control mech. Keep that scorpion and starfish foiled with lots of smoke and fire tiles. But things are in pretty good condition. The leader Vec spawns, a bouncer leader. However, considering its slow movement and the fact that so much of the board is blocked by fire and smoke, we are not too worried about it. You also love it when the randomly spawning new robot blocks the enemy's attack, so we can just ignore the robots on this turn. Of course, everyone wants to destroy poor Archimedes, but we can save him. And then we're going to have to leave that spawn unblocked. We don't want to be destroyed by the bouncer leader in the process, but it's okay. Our final turn will be a 4v3, but that should be manageable. And indeed, only 2 enemies are threatening the grid. We like that math. So it's time for our boss fight against the Tumblebug leader. And in theory, it'll have another leader as a backup dancer. Our final test before the volcanic island. So the Tumblebug leader will have the Starfish leader as well. And then to round out the Op 4, we've got a Digger, Starfish Alpha, and Moth. I'm trying to be very careful with where I place my mechs. If the Starfish attack them, it would be nice to have them in a position where the Starfish will not also be threatening the grid. And it would also be nice to try and bait the Tumblebug leader to deploy its unstable boulders in between my mechs. That's at least my hope. And look at that. My baiting was successful. At least on the Tumblebug leader. Unfortunately, I am less successful on the eastern side of the board. But the smoldering shells should be able to handle that situation. Getting some fracturing shell value, and then I can use the Digger to set up the kill shot for us, and we can take 1 chip damage on the control mech. That is fine. So mission accomplished in theory on turn 1. The next turn will be a nice and even 3v3. Oh, control shot. It's so good. If you don't count teleportation, it is the single farthest forced movement tool in the entire game. And we get a Omni block. You love to see it. Next turn will be 2v3. But the game will be very upset with us, and will try to spawn in more boys. We have 4 HP on the Starfish Leader. That's the magic number. Then we just focus on blocking spawns. So the final turn for the island will be 3v3, and our victory is all but assured. And that is GG. The enemy essentially throws. So, perfect score, perfect island, 40k. We'll see what our final reward options are. And then it will just be time to finish off the run. And it will be the very first perfect score for our little channel here. Smoke Mortar is, of course, absolutely redundant. We get Ghana. Ghana with thick skin. It's fine. I think we're just going to wind up selling them. And then as far as the reputation store, again, nothing especially interesting. I'm happy enough with my loadout, and it is obviously proven effective enough that we're just, I think, going to sell what we don't need. Dump it into power cores. Whatever's left over can go into grid defense. And we will be in good shape for our 5th and final video in this series. I hope you're there to swoon as you see a 40k run to completion, which is hardly an achievement. We are, of course, playing with the Mist Eaters, the best squad in the game. Shocker!